Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel today. We're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations at Catalunya in the Super Formula cars. That was on the weekend. So top split lobby, obviously best drivers in Europe, starting from pole position, B Racer. In P2 there, the Williams driver. In P3 we've got TRL Tsuchu, I'm going to call him, I don't know if I pronounced it right, but one of the very fast driver. TRL Org in P4. As you can tell in a lobby like this, it's just a stacked lobby all the way through the grid. I think the points were just under 3,000 points now. Normally we'd get them slightly over 3k. I'm not sure if it actually hit 3k this lobby. It might have been just over 3k. I'm not sure whether it was 2.9 or 3,000 dead on. But going through the grid there, you can see myself in P8. Didn't hit the perfect lap, but it wasn't a bad lap. Good enough to put me in a P8 and a group of 20 drivers of some of the fastest drivers in Europe, so not too bad. But like I say, we could have gone a little bit better, maybe got ourselves in the top 5, but not too bad at all. In the first race, this was the second race of the day. In the first race we qualified in P10, got a really good start off the line and got ourselves quite high up. I think we were in P6 going into turn 1, and I just made a silly mistake. I got on the power too early. I thought I actually had contact with another car because there was a car on my left, and it was my own fault. Too eager on the throttle, trying to get through the corner, off the racing line, and also right behind another car, and the car just lost the rear, and we ended up losing control of the car. So first race didn't go too well. We did actually start coming back reasonably well through the field from right at the back. I think we were down to P20 and got ourselves back up to P30, but just didn't manage to. I think we actually got a penalty somewhere, so we ended up dropping back a little bit further. But you can see right at the back of the grid, RC Meteor, very strange to see RC Meteor at the back, and LZR Thomas. And my guess is I think LZR Thomas didn't get a lap in. If I remember rightly, when we saw the actual lap times, I don't think he actually hit a lap time. So starting from the start, the first thing I wanted to do is make sure I got a really good start. So traction control on level 1, and I use the boost off the start. So what you're going to see is now some of the drivers got a jump start, so we gained 2 places straight away, and then I used my boost all the way through these 2 drivers, nearly in a sandwich, but managed to get from P8 to P4. So a great start using the boost there and going into turn 1 in P4. And you can see the battling behind gave me a little bit of a gap as well. P3 looks like he hit B Racer with maybe a little bit of lag or something, but then he got the undercut as I was saving fuel. Maybe I should have been in the full throttle, full mixture then, but he got back past. I didn't want to fight it too much because I was quite happy to be in P4 at this stage of the race. Obviously with starting in P8 to now be in P4 was a big benefit, as you can see now. Trying to follow TRL Org and B Racer all the way through these corners. The PRT driver in front of me there in the pink Super Formula, pushing really hard. We're all very close together at this stage, obviously, so all picking up a lot of the loss of downforce when you're behind another car. So you can see getting very close and running wide out them corners there. As it does look amazing, I have to say. I really enjoy these cars. It's probably my favourite cars in the game at the moment. Since they've been added in, I really enjoy the tactical element. And one thing I was a little bit worried about was the rate of tyre wear that Polyphony put on for this rate. We had times 25 tyre wear, I believe it was, which was just, it was insane, and we were on racing soft tyres. So within like 3 or 4 laps the tyres felt pretty dead, but we did need to do fuel saving in this, or so we thought. I think in the last race of the day someone did a different strategy of just going flat out, and actually ended up being a lot faster than the fuel saving race. But for this race no one really tried that, as you see now. What we were doing on the straights, I was using the mixture, pretty much maximum mixture, but short shifting them towards the end of the straight, moving it up to mixture 6, so we use less fuel when we're at the end of the straight. And then through the corners, normally mixture 3, because I wanted to save the tyres on the front end as much as possible. What you're going to see throughout the race is the front tyres do tend to die very quick on this car. I don't know whether that's realistic. It seems a little bit exaggerated to me. I don't believe that the fronts would be overly wearing the way they do. I think maybe it's something within the default setup, I'm not too sure, but the front tyres just wear so fast with the Super Formula cars. I think it should be a little bit more even with these type of cars. It is a little bit strange that they're like that, but obviously with the extreme speeds we're going through the corners, that's why we're using the mixtures slightly less. Maybe even mixture 2 will help the tyre wear because you're not putting the full power through the corners. But at the moment, staying with the group ahead of me, we're not getting dropped by P1, 2 or 3, so the race is actually going okay. I did know that I had reasonable race pace because in the first race, like I say, after we got dropped back down to P20, we did work our way back through the field, so the pace was definitely there. I knew that I had the ability to pick up a good result if we can just keep it calm. and stay on the track. So obviously P4 for me would be a great result in this race as we now go down the start straight to start lap 3 of 11. Again, this race was very short. It seems to be a growing trend of FIA races recently. The daily race that we've got on now at Autopolis is a slightly shorter lap time, but it's 13 laps, so it's actually a longer race than what we did in the FIA. So I think that it's quite baffling. I think they need to look into the way they're doing these races. I think FIA races should be a bit longer. I would personally think that this race should have been at least 15 laps. I think 15 laps would have been a nice amount of laps to give options for strategy, and then to reduce the tyre wear a little bit. I think the extreme tyre wear on times 25 and the fuel high kind of meant that everyone was more bothered about their fuel, more bothered about their tyre wear. No one was really driving 100% aggressive, and I think that would have been a more enjoyable race in my opinion. I would have liked to have been pushing a little bit more, but I do understand why Polyphony do these settings, because in the end they do create quite dynamic types of races, and they can be enjoyable to watch. As we see B Racer there getting into P2, I don't know whether he was defending there or he's made a mistake, but he looks like he's got back past P3. Maybe he did start from pole position, so he's obviously lost a few places and then got back past the PR1 driver in front of him there on lap 3 as Org. A little bit of a gap between himself and B Racer, but at the moment we're in that range where just about picking up the slipstream, but I didn't get the best exit off that corner. You can see P5 actually gaining a little bit on me in the mirror, and you can see that P3 is pulled away, but he's getting the slipstream. So what's happening here now is he's getting the slipstream off B Racer, and this is not helping me because I'm not getting any slipstream down the straight. But the good thing about that is you don't get the understeer through the corners, so you tend to look after them front tyres a little bit better as we now go through these really fast, aggressive corners. You really have to throw the car in there, and you can see the tyre wear starting to take effect on the fronts. Now, we ran the race with all the way to the rear bias. This is to help the front tyres out as we go through this long right-hand corner, trying to get on the power as early as we can. And you see there, B Racer running very close to the curb on the left-hand side, and just trying to hook this apex up to stay as close to these cars as possible. Now, I was just trying to do a lot of fuel saving during this stage as well. I could have got myself, probably if I wanted to, I could have used a bit more fuel and got very close to B Racer and the PRT driver in front. But in the race, I didn't really want to do this. When we live streamed this, I didn't want to get too close to them and pick up that loss of aero that you get, because you run the risk of running wide out the corners. As we look on the replay camera, and these cars do look great, all the liveries. Obviously, another thing I love about these cars is that we can all put our own liveries on, unlike the F1 car where we're stuck with either a colour change version, which doesn't look that great, or the Mercedes version. These cars for me are just more fun, more enjoyable to drive, and I really do like them as we go through the final sector for another time to start another lap. As you see there, very close to the car in front of us at this stage, as like I said, I didn't want to pick up too much dirty air and slipstream, obviously, because you want it down the straight, but you don't want it through the fast corners, because it's just going to kill the front tyres on your car as you pick up that understeer, and then run the risk of, like I said, picking up a penalty. So, and it was very easy to get a penalty at this track with some of the track limits on the outside, so I wanted to try and be very cautious, using that mixture free through the corner, saving the fuel, short shifting. You can see how I'm short shifting it even though I'm in mixture free, because I don't want to use it. I want to try and save as much fuel as I can as we get to the pit stop phases. B Racer has a massive moment on the corner and he bins it. You can see the rear just went on him, it snapped. He tried to correct it, but then as he corrected it, the car straightened off into the gravel, and that gives me P3 in this race. And we've got a bit of a comfortable gap at the moment to P4 behind us, and a little bit of a gap to P3 there, you can see. So we're in a bit of a safety zone at the moment. We're not really under pressure from the car behind, and we're not really close enough to the car in front to be putting too much pressure on, but we don't know what fuel other drivers have been using, so we'll have a little look as we go into the pits on this lap. We're obviously going to go on lap 5, because on the final stint, when the fuel's a little bit lower, because we've now got 50% fuel on the car, but we only have to put a bit of fuel to get to the end, so we're going to use the longer stint for when the car's going to be lighter throughout them 6 laps, so that's why we do it. And now coming through the final chicane, just trying to take it easy, make sure we don't make any mistakes. Really easy to lose the rear on that corner. And going into the pits, you see Org 53, 49 for the PR1 driver, and myself 53, and the driver behind me that was behind me 49. So I have more than the car in front of me and behind me, and more than the car in front of me, equal to Org on fuel. So that was quite good to see. The fuel saving was reasonable going into the pits, and now I can afford to put a little bit more fuel in if I want, and probably still get a little bit of a jump on the driver that was directly in front of me. So this will be interesting where we come out. I could have gone really low on the fuel and maybe maybe come out ahead of him, but then I would have been in a fuel situation where I didn't want to be struggling at the end, because I knew that obviously the TRL driver that got the jump start, he might be coming back through. As you see him there, just coming out the pitch, you see he's in P10 at the moment. Obviously we've dropped back on the grid order because some cars are going to be pitting on lap 6, and some cars are also going to be may have already pitted a lap earlier, so we may have been jumped by some cars pushing really hard on their out lap on lap 4. Maybe they went on the medium tyre, maybe they went on the soft tyre trying to do a really long stint. But you can see there we've got a Scar Fab in front of us, and he's really struggling on them tyres. To me, that shows that he's definitely not pitted yet. He's got no traction at all, so I'm going to try and get past him. He's pretty much given us that corner. He's braked early, and now we've managed to get past him straight away. So important to get past these cars struggling on the tyres as early as possible. You don't want to get stuck behind them because they can lose you so much time. As you see there, Bruno in front of us there seems to let the PR1 driver go through. I brake really late, and he left the door open there, but then just shut it, so I didn't know what he was going to do. I thought he was letting me through because he's obviously struggling on his tyres. Got on the power, he didn't have any traction anyway, but it looked like he left the door open, but then just shut it on me, and I thought, no, I just didn't know what to do. Obviously I didn't want to hesitate in that situation, because in the race that I'm in, any hesitation could lose me valuable time to the drivers in front. So a close one. I tried to turn in very close to the apex and nearly wiped him out completely, but just a little tap in the end and we get through safely, and he didn't really come to much harm. He lost maybe a second or so, but he was struggling anyway on them tyres. The tyres really were they were warm for myself, so the extra lap probably would have killed him off completely. As we now go through the really fast twisty section, you can see that the Williams driver in front of me, I think that he must have pitted the lap before we did, because he seems to be already struggling a little bit on them tyres. Maybe he's tried under-fueled the car as well, so having to do a lot of fuel saving as we go through the long right-hand corner. You can see that he's definitely not got the grip that we've got on the slightly fresher tyres as we go through the left-hand corner, trying to get on the power. And just, we're going to look like we're going to be able to make a move on him sooner rather than later. We've got Organ P2 there. In P1 we have Matu, who I don't think he had pitted yet, or he had pitted really early and put some different tyres on or something, because he's way ahead at the moment, but it looks like he's losing time at quite a fast racing lot, so maybe he hasn't pitted yet. Trying a different strategy, starting from the back of the grid obviously. As you see there, the Williams driver getting ever closer to myself, so it's now in the slipstream range. The one thing that's happening is that when we're this close, we're going to lose a little bit of downforce through the corners. But if we can just about stay in the slipstream range at this point, I had a bit of boost left, so what I was planning on doing, if I can get a good exit, as I see P4, the Williams driver, having a little bit of an error on the exit, so I decided to just go for the boost and try and go for the move now, because he would have been struggling for straight line speed with that error that he made. And look at the difference the boost makes. This is why I like these cars, the tactical element. Used all my boost up, got the inside line. I thought he was just going to give me that because he stayed to the left, and he tried to hang it around the outside there. He just braked a little bit too late. He didn't have the grip to stay on the track, and then as he got back on the power, he put the power in too soon, very similar to how I did on the first race, and just binned it into the gravel and into the wall. I think he actually quit this race, but he actually did, in the final race of the day, get a win from that race with the strategy that I was talking about. He actually went really aggressive on the fuel and actually got a win by quite some margin, so it showed that the strategy to go for was probably the aggressive strategy rather than the fuel saving strategy. But no one had really tried it, and it's really weird because this sometimes happens that we're not running the exact optimum strategy, but if everyone's doing it, if everyone's doing the similar strategy, that's okay with me, as long as I'm the only one not doing the right one, and that's when I'll be a little bit worried. But in this race, it seems everyone's running fairly similar strategy, apart from P1 there with the no stop. But we're very close to these cars in front of us. You can see we're not too far off of Org, who is technically in P1, because he's going to be passing Matu at such an easy rate. It's not even going to be any real battle going on there with the grip that Matu is going to have on his car. But P3 getting very close to Org now. You can see he seemed to be really driving aggressive, and that made me wonder, is he going to have the fuel? Because I actually went into the pits on the first stint with more fuel than him. So I just kept on with my strategy of looking after the car, looking after the fuel, and looking after the front tyres. I didn't want to get to the end of the race with no fuel and having to do loads of fuel saving and the tyres completely dead. Because one thing we've got to be very careful is, if you look behind us, we do have the TRL Tsusu driver. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I know I said it before, but I really don't know how we say his name. Got it right. He's right behind me, and he's one of the fastest drivers on the game. In my personal opinion, he's very, very fast. He's getting very close to lightning speed, not quite at lightning's outright pace yet in the race. In terms of time trial, he's not far off, and he's heading behind us at quite a rate of knots. So you can see there's a bit of a gap at the moment. We've got just over 2.5 laps to go at the moment, and we've got a few seconds gap to him as we now getting very close to Matu in front of us. So this is going to be very important to make sure that I get past Matu as soon as possible. I cannot afford to be getting held up in any of these technical sections while he's suffering with the tyre. So while I'm here now, I'm just trying to save a bit of fuel, because there's no point battling with him and getting caught out and an incident, a penalty, and there's no real overtaking opportunity at this point in the track anyway. So just staying behind him at the moment and then trying to get a good exit off the throttle. But at this point I couldn't get it back into one mixture, so I had to wait till I was on the straight. Now we're back into the one mixture. You can see he must be also using one mixture on the straight, because we're not gaining too much, just a little bit in the slipstream. So he's obviously going to try and defend as much as he can, but will he be able to defend through the corners? And looking how much grip he's got, you can just see he just cannot get on the power. We've got much better front end on the car, so I go wide through that corner to try and get an undercut line on this right hander. He's run a little bit wide with them tyres. I think he's just given up on that and let me through, and we put ourselves into that final podium position, into P3. But we do have that other TRL driver in P5 who is going to be so close to us on the final lap. Am I going to be able to hold on to this? This is going to be very close. We also look like we're starting to gain a bit of that time back on P2. Org has just pretty much shot off. He looks like he's probably put a little bit more fuel in or something, because he's actually pushed really hard and he's actually built a bit of a gap ahead up. And this kind of actually proves the point that the Williams driver did in the final race of pushing hard. It was definitely the faster way, because just look how much further on Org has gone as there. You see the TRL driver making a move on that replay camera and putting himself right behind me now. He got straight past Matu in a nice place to the track as well. He didn't really get held up too much at all by him, and he's right behind myself now onto the final lap. Will I be able to defend from the TRL driver? It's going to be extremely hard, but you can also see how close I've got to the PR1 driver in front of me. Extremely close starting the final lap. He is either suffering with tyres or fuel. My guess is some of it is the tyres. I had saved my fuel so that I could actually push quite aggressively on this final lap, and you can see we still got some front left tyres. The right side's fine, it's the front left hand tyre that is struggling as we go into the right hand corner. Just look how much he's struggling, that P2 driver. It's probably, in my opinion, it looks like it's fuel related and a little bit of tyres. Maybe he drove very aggressive early on, but he's definitely struggling with that car as we now go through to the braking for this tricky right hand corner where you've got to be very cautious on the power. But one benefit I've got is now that the TRL driver behind me is in that slipstream range, he's going to also be getting that dirty air, loss of downforce. He's not going to be able to get on the power as easy. He's going to get a lot of understeer. And just look in the mirror, it's going to be emphasised on this left-hand corner now. Just watch how close he gets. Very good. But look how his car just runs off the front end. Just says, no, I can't cope with that loss of grip. And he runs wide. And he just can't. And again, through the right-hander, he's running wide again because of the slipstream. But now I'm also picking up the slipstream of P2 because we've got very close to him. Definitely looks like he's struggling with a bit of fuel consumption as well, because he doesn't seem to have the acceleration or the straight line speed. But now this is a situation where I'm getting the dirty air and P4 is also getting the dirty air. So it's going to be pretty much evens now to the end. Hopefully I can hold on to this P3 in this race for some very big points, and possibly my biggest points so far in this 2019 championship as we go through to the final corner. Onto the power, plenty of fuel left there, just enough to put it in one mixture and floor it all the way to the finishing line. And I take a nice solid P3 and a very tough split as well in terms of the drivers involved in this race. Obviously the top split lobby, highest rated drivers, and some solid points. 2,600 points. I decided to call it a night on that. There was no point me racing again. 2,600 points is good enough for myself. I'm not too worried about pushing on for bigger points than that. And you can see that actually puts me up to P4 in the UK in the Nations Championship and P37 in the whole of Europe. So we're making progress. We are pushing. There's more potential to get a little bit further up. We've got some other rounds that could maybe be improved upon. I think if we can get one lucky round where we pick up 2.8, 2.9 points, you know, it can happen. You know, drivers make mistakes and then we take advantage, then we might be able to come away with some very big points and push ourselves even further up on that leaderboard. Anyway, I'm 100% happy with that race, 100% happy with the points, and looking forward to pushing on at Bathurst in the Group 3 cars. So if you enjoyed that video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and leave any comments in the comment section. I'll be back very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.